Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, President Trump and Freedom 250, for the opportunity to join you all today on the National Mall. What an honor it is to join you on the mall, this mall lined with monuments to our nation's triumphal past. And now, thanks to the Great American State Fair, now showing the ingenuity, industry, and the spirit of the American people. It highlights the strength and the future our nation has in store for the next 250 years. This stretch of land is a place where generation after generation has come to renew its faith in liberty to the enduring principles that have made this nation free. There are very few places on earth that actually reminds us more clearly of the blessings of liberty than this ground beneath our feet. You see, we are here today to enjoy the reward of the millions before us, those who sacrificed to make this political experiment the envy of the world. This is a place that Reverend John Winthrop spoke about when he looked across a vast and untamed wilderness and prophesied that this would be a city on a hill. This is the place that Abraham Lincoln recognized that even during the dark hour of the Civil War, that this place is still the best hope for man on earth. On this mall, we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, monuments to the giants of our past, heroes memorialized in stone. They were placed there to remind posterity of the heavy cost of freedom and to inspire you and me to become the heroes of tomorrow. Look down the great expanse of this open mall, and at one end stands a majestic dome of our capital, housing the governing body of a free people, where a constitutional republic deliberates and hammers out the path forward to a greater tomorrow. Regardless of personal politics or belief about the effectiveness of that body, the mere fact of its continued deliberation by elected governing body for over 250 years is foreign to much of world history. Most nations do not endure with the same founding constitutional framework for such a period of time. And at the other end of this grand mall sits a giant on whose shoulders we stand today. The solemn monument to President Abraham Lincoln. It was President Abraham Lincoln who reminded us that there is an electric cord in the Declaration that links the hearts of patriotic and liberty-loving people together. A cord that stretches across oceans, across centuries, and binds us here today. You and I stand here today as a free people, holding the highest honor of human nature, the ability to call ourselves American citizens. Talk to any United States historian, talk to any historian of the world, and they will tell you the undeniable truth. No nation in the record of human civilization has experienced the cascading freedom, wealth, or political prosperity that you and I enjoy here today. Look around, consider the sheer scale of what this land has produced. Today, the citizens of the United States make up a mere 4% of the world's population. Yet just 4% of that world's population approximately creates 26% of the world's gross domestic product. More than a quarter of the world's wealth is produced by a single people. Not because they are bound by one ethnicity, not because they are bound by one faith, but because they are united on an idea. An idea first declared in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And from that simple but profound truth came a system of government built on consent, liberty, and the dignity of the individual. And from that system came something rare in history. A diverse nation held together not by bloodlines, but by shared belief. And this is the miracle of America. American exceptionalism is not measured on what we produce, but by what we give. The same prosperity that has been built here, unmatched in scale and scope, is mirrored only in a spirit of generosity that is equally unmatched. According to a recent survey, the United States ranked as the single most generous nation. Americans constantly give more of their time, more of their hard-earned talents, and more of their personal resources to help the suffering and downtrodden citizens of any other country in the world. Our abundance is so profound that it distorts the global comparison. Look at Mississippi, a place often referred by economists as the poorest in our nation. Yet if you look at its per capita GDP, it exceeds that of the United Kingdom. If Great Britain, with all its history, its empires, its kingdom, and its castles, were to apply for admission to the Union today, it would rank at the very bottom among the 50 states in economic output per person. But why? The ingenuity and generosity of the American people are among the greatest the world has ever seen. They have built industries, cured disease, fed the hungry, and carried hope to the far corners of the world. But let us be clear, these achievements are not the foundation of America's greatness. They are the fruit of it. As we travel across this country, we often ask a simple question. What is it that makes America exceptional? And there's always a pause when we ask this question, as if the question has never been asked before. As we ask this question, what makes America exceptional? We are told America is great because of her natural resources. Or America is great because of her economy, her military, or the strength of her world leader. Yet if these are corollaries of freedom, nations should all experience the same amount of freedom in relation to the resources they are given. If it is our vast natural resources that make us free, many nations have possessed resources far greater than those experienced here in the United States. But we do not determine them to be free. If it is the size of the economy which makes a nation free, China is recognized as the second wealthiest country in the world, but by no means is it the second most free. Is it because of the strength of our military? Military power can preserve freedom, but seldom does it create it. Many nations, including Russia, have strong world leaders, but too often are they prone to become tyrants, not defenders of freedom. Too often we speak of America's greatness in terms of output, our economy, our military strength, our natural resources, our global influence. And yes, these have blessed our nation and strengthened its stability. But they are not the cause of our freedom. They are the consequence. Our resources have played their part in mobilizing 13 struggling colonies into the greatest force of freedom. But none of them explain the core to America's greatness. At times, nations have exceeded the United States in the aforementioned resources. Yet look at the grand parade of human history. Millions upon millions have left their ancestral homes, abandoned everything they knew, and fled authoritarian governments in search of a future. And where did they go? They did not flee to Beijing. They did not risk their lives to leave to Moscow. They left to the United States of America. The founders did not claim the authority to bestow freedom upon the colonists, nor did they argue that rights come from kings, parliaments, presidents, or governments. They acknowledged our rights come from a creator, and because those rights come from a creator, no earthly power has the ability to take them away. Government, they had understood, had one essential purpose: not to create rights, but to secure the God-given rights already bestowed upon each and every one of us. For nearly 250 years, people from every corner of the world have looked to these shores with hope. They have crossed oceans and deserts, not merely for opportunity, but for freedom. Freedom secured with these words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, driving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Rights in America were never seen as a gift of government or a privilege that can be given or revoked by the whims of a tyrant. But they are rights given to us by God Himself. The architects of our republic understood God governs in the affairs of men. And as Benjamin Franklin noted, if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without His notice, it is improbable that an empire can rise without its aid. Franklin later notes, if we do not seek the help of God, we can be no more successful than the builders of Babel. In the very Declaration of Independence they signed, declaring the independence from Great Britain, 4 times they declared their dependence on Almighty God. They understood, as George Washington of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to support these great pillars of political happiness. These biblical principles at the bedrock of the American Republic are the very principles that have held our nation up for the last 250 years. They taught us that every individual is created equal in Imago Dei, in the very image of God. And because of that truth, we rejected the systems of Europe. We rejected the titles of nobility. We created a world where no citizen is born better than the other, but equal under the law. Where every child is given the God-given right to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed, based on their own hard work, character, and merit. And in truth, the highest glory of this political experiment has been its creation of an inseparable bond between the principles of our civil government with the principles of Christianity. To the point, Washington called religion an indispensable support to our political prosperity. As we look out and see these monuments, they remind us, freedom is never inherited. Every generation must own it, defend it, and pass it on to the next. And our history is a testament to the sacrifices of those faces now memorialized in stone. 250 years ago, in the spring of 1775, patriots gathered secretly in meetings across New England, asking the exact same questions that several years ago kept many of us awake at night. Will our children know what it is to live in a free nation? What can I do to preserve freedom? In the midst of that anxiety, a young physician named Dr. Joseph Warren stood up and addressed those troubled patriots. He said words that I believe still ring true today. He said, our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important question upon which rests the happiness and liberties of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves. Because if they failed, he believed, they affront the very God that made them free. Just 2 weeks after delivering that message, Dr. Joseph Warren received word of a British plot. He found a Boston blacksmith by the name of Paul Revere and gave him the fateful orders to ride through the night, warning the British are coming. The British regulars were on the march to seize our supplies and our patriotic leaders, John Hancock, and Sam Adams. Revere mounted his horse, rode in the night, warning, the British are coming, the British are coming. And on the chilling morning of April 19, 1775, 70 gathered on the green grass of Lexington, determined to be free. They weren't professional soldiers. They didn't wear polished uniforms. They wore farmers, blacksmiths, shopkeepers, farmers, husbands, and young sons, pulled from the warm beds by the frantic cries of midnight riders. They stood there on the Lexington Green because the pastors had taught them from the pulpits that liberty was a sacred trust from Almighty God. Resistance to tyranny wasn't rebellion against heaven, but it was obedience to God. They formed their uneven ranks next to the village meeting house where they worshipped every Sunday. They didn't want blood, they didn't seek war, but they refused to surrender that which God entrusted to them. Suddenly, through the morning fog, the massive British column arose. Redcoats as far as the eye could see, bayonets gleaming coldly in the first light of dawn. Over 600 elite soldiers closed on the 70 patriots. British Major Pitcairn rode to the front, drew his sword, and commanded across the green, "Disperse, ye rebels, disperse, ye villains, lay down your arms." And Captain John Parker, leading our militia, looked forward at that overwhelming force before him, then at his men behind him, and said words that America began with. "Stand your ground," he told his men. "Don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have war, let it begin here." Then a single shot shattered the morning air. To this day, no one knows whose finger pulled and fired the first shot. When the smoke finally cleared, American fathers and sons lay dead on that Lexington Green. Our militia was scattered that morning, but an unquenchable fire had been lit. That single shot had been known as a shot heard around the world, and it started history all over again. For 250 years, this has been our heritage. An American does not look for the easy way out. An American does not seek the safe harbor of tyranny just to avoid the storm which may be traversed to achieve liberty. The true heritage of an American is to look in the eyes of oppression and say with Patrick Henry, "Is life so dear or peace so sweet to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." Look out beyond this mall today. Look across the Potomac River and the gentle slopes of Arlington National Cemetery. There, under nearly 500,000 markers, lie the mortal remains of Americans who answered that call. They fell at Gettysburg, they charged the beaches of Normandy, they froze in the mountains of Korea, and they fought through the jungles of Vietnam. They weren't born into royalty, they weren't destined for fame, but when greatness was thrust upon them, they stood. Now 250 years after that first shot was fired at Lexington Green, you and I find ourselves standing at a profound crossroads in our nation's history. We live in a time where voices marching under the false flag of progress urge us to abandon the principles of the revolution. They tell us our Constitution is outdated and the faith of our forefathers is a relic of the past and has no place in the public square. They want us to tear down the pillars which they kept, that has kept us free for 250 years. That instead we should surrender our liberties to the control of central planners and an ever-growing swamp of political elites. But just like in 1776, freedom today is still expensive. This political experiment is still revolutionary, and a banner which flies over the land of the free is still a symbol of freedom and hope to millions around the world. But today, now more than ever, it is imperative upon us, you and I, to stand guard at that watchtower of freedom. You and I have to determine, are we going to stand guard at that watchtower of freedom, or are we going to allow freedom to implode and disintegrate on our watch? This 250th birthday of our nation, let us rededicate ourselves to the principles that have allowed America to be free. In 1775, the men of Lexington acted worthy of themselves for the defense of freedom. In 1776, 56 patriots acted worthy of themselves when they signed their names beneath that final line of the Declaration of Independence, pledging their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to give birth to this new nation. The question before us today, in our nation's 250th year, is will we? Will we act worthy of ourselves and preserve this nation, the last best hope for man on earth? God bless you all, and God bless America.